In three, two, one, we are rolling. Welcome back, Strange Crew. We have a really fun episode ready for you guys today, and we've got a special guest.
Devora, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. Live from Los Angeles.
Thank you guys so much. I really love the show, and thank you so much for having me on. It means a lot.
Amazing. Yeah, so we first, I guess, first got connected during the Cavendish Beach Music Festival. We weren't able to connect, but we were chatting a little bit before we hit record. What a great festival, eh? How was that experience for you?
It was so amazing, truly, from um just the, you know, the range of artists, and I really love how they like curated the whole thing, and it was so much fun, and it's a really unique place to have a
Mhm.
festival. Cavendish is absolutely beautiful, and you just feel like you're on the edge of the earth, and
Yeah,
it was really, really a magical experience.
Really?
yeah, we love going there. It's really it is like kind of like a different part of the world, like you said. Even as here in Canada, where we're located, we're about 2, 3 hours away. But even when we go there, it feels like a different part of the world. And
Yeah.
seeing the way that they have it set up and the amount of musicians and artists that they're bringing from all across North America really helps people discover these artists that they may not have discovered other ways. So we love, love, love going to Cavendish. We were definitely bummed that we weren't able to connect, but I think this is a better opportunity for each other's audiences to get to know each other, right? Rather than a rushed interview. So I think fate protected us to give us this time today.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. So I guess to start things off, so you kind of call yourself an outlaw pop artist, which I love that. I love that tag. I guess so for people that have never heard of your music before, I guess how would you describe your art and outlaw pop?
Mm.
Yeah, so this whole project was kind of birthed out of like wanting to just personally like growing up on heavier, darker music and also country music, wanting to like blend the two worlds because there was like just as a consumer and as like a in high school, like I felt like I always wanted to hear something in that space. So I wanted to like bridge that gap artistically. And yeah, and I'd say it's really cinematic. I love my favorite kind of um I love to tell stories, and I love my favorite kind of songs to listen to and write are the kind that like put you directly in, the movie scene where you're using all five senses and you're right there in the middle of the action. So, um, I'd say the newer stuff is pretty cinematic. It's still pretty dark, and it all while encompassing that kind of Western country vibe in there as well.
And so how would like what are some of the artists or whether or pieces of art, like whether it be film or other musicians that kind of drew you to this kind of aesthetic and this vibe in the first place?
Yeah, I'd say probably, directors like Tarantino, heavily influenced by his work. You have movies like Natural Born Killers and, like, stuff, like that, that just really, uh, I love, and I always will. And then Nine Inch Nails is my favorite artist, so, kinda wanting to incorporate some of those, like, darker synthesizers and drum beats and that kind of thing into a kind of a country space, um, all the while loving artists like, um, Shania Twain and Lainey Wilson and, um, some of these more, like some of these, like, new school country acts that are, like, a little more alternative, like, uh oh my gosh, like Morgan Wade, love her,
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
and yeah, yeah, and, uh, there's actually a guy that played at Cavendish that, I was a fan of before, and I didn't realize he was playing the festival, but he kind of blends like a more alternative, he's in a more like alternative country space, Steven Wilson
Oh,
Jr.
he's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, super cool. So I didn't realize he was playing, and
Yeah,
I was so excited and surprised when I saw him. And I think Cavendish did a really great job of, um, that's one thing that really, like, impressed me was how they, really had such a mix of the spectrum of country per se, and they really tried to incorporate artists that were, a little left of center in that
Mhm.
world.
It's a
Yeah,
big
there was
reason why we go to those festivals as well. And I think growing up, like myself, I was very much into a lot of different music. Growing up, my grandparents were really into, the country music channel. And
Mm.
my dad was really into a lot of classic rock and heavy metal. And I remember him telling me very specifically when I was in high school, because he heard me say, oh, I shouldn't listen to that because it's not metal enough. And he said, he's like, you shouldn't isolate yourself from genres of music because of what people think or what they are, because everything comes from something else. So he said the people who say that they don't like country probably like Johnny Cash. They just don't like the twangy Alan Jackson, maybe. And then it was funny because as I grew up and I was listening to more like Nine Inch Nails, the Deftones, seeing the crossover with Johnny Cash and seeing all the ways that this country music has kind of evolved into some of, like you said, the dark music. I think it's a really interesting time to be doing your music because there's a lot of resources and festivals and people that are trying to give exposure to people that can do a lot of a lot of those variables. And like growing up for me, I always thought the music videos that country music artists did were amazing, like Martina McBride, Garth Brooks, like all those music videos growing up. I always thought they were so well done, and that was a big reason probably why I liked Nine Inch Nails and Tool, is that they were equally thoughtful about telling a story, but their live performances were always really telling too. So I think like the mix of both is a really interesting genre to be in.
That's a really great point, really really well worded, and I think artists like Hardy and Jelly Roll have really, like, kinda kicked the door open even more for, just within the last few years for, um for this space to keep, like, thriving, I think.
And I think the way that we, tell stories about how things have changed from, the good old days to what we're facing in, whether it's politics or just a
Mhm.
creative industry, I think it is interesting. And I think it's really cool to see how artists like Shania Twain and Lainey Wilson and folks like that are still putting on the bigger shows and trying to connect with their audiences, because it gives a lot of other people, including audiences and new artists, an ability to understand how to thrive and how to permeate some of those funnels too. And I think something that we always talk about on our show is we like seeing an artist be able to just actually be inspired again by something instead of just emulating stuff that's already been done, and being able to have those like real influences and to see other parts of the world and see new people gives you an ability as an artist to evolve too. So
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I read something the other day. It was I forget what publication it was, but it was the idea that genre is almost becoming obsolete in a way.
mhm.
Like it's not just rock anymore. It's not just pop. And people aren't defining themselves sort of like, as Kate mentioned earlier, like, oh, I grew up listening, like it needs to be metal, right?
Mhm.
It's all being mixed, right? And sort of what you're doing with outlaw pop, I think is super, like it's a case in point, right? That I think just the way how we listen to music has evolved, how we discover new music has evolved, that, the boxes that we put our tastes in are sort of kind of dissolving.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I love how there's no rules anymore. Everything's kind of fluid and, um, all of those kind of, um, barriers that once were there are kind of falling down, and I'm with you on that because you hear so many different, um especially now, I feel like people are just, uh everyone's seen everything, right? So anything that's new and different that we haven't heard before is like that sticks out, for sure.
And
As an
country
artist, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, so and country's one of those genres that keep innovating, which, and again, like Kate and I are rock and roll girls, but we can't really say the same for rock music in a sense. Like in terms of like pop has always evolved, like dance has always evolved, country, case in point, right? So I think country is one of probably the most interesting genres to watch right now, really.
And it's kind of always been something that has evolved too. Like I mean, if you look at a lot of the, like the Hank Williams and, like the Bob Haggards and the Waylon Jennings and stuff, like they were men's men, and they were also still able to sing about romance and life on the road and working collar jobs and, day-to-day life. And I think everybody can resonate that. So whether you're throwing down a Nine Inch Nails or an Alan Jackson or whoever, I think it's just about how people resonate with that music, right? And then how people wear it as a badge. My question would be, as an artist through the pandemic in 2025, do you find it easier to just be yourself where there isn't as many limitations, or do you find it harder where there's so much potential opportunity out there?
That's a really good question. This project started in the pandemic, so it was kind of in a vacuum, which was I thought it was fun. I was like really, everyone was so isolated, and I was in my own world, in my own bubble, and I was really able to dive in and do something that I'd creatively always wanted to do with no restrictions, like sky's the limit kind of thing. Um, and yeah, to what you said, I think that now more than ever, like, I saw some statistic the other day that like, you know, 40, 50,000 songs come out every day on Spotify. Like there, now more than ever, it's very saturated, and everyone's releasing music, and more than ever before. Um, but I think that the consumption side has also changed, and I think now more than ever, people are consuming because of the state of the world and because of, just how
Right.
insane things are. They're consuming at a more like rapid rate,
Yeah.
music. I know personally, like, I'll bounce around genres, I'll bounce around artists. Like it's like we're taking in more. It's not,
Right.
um, yeah. So I really feel like there is a space for everyone. And, some of the most niche artists I've seen on TikTok just doing really like obscure stuff, like
Mhm.
they have a great following. And it's really cool that we have all these tools now where everyone can kind of find their tribe.
Yeah, I think it's so important to kind of know how the industry is working, how to play within that ecosystem as an artist and as a creative, but
Mm,
not to get pigeonholed or isolated into there being too much, right? Because it can get, even for us on our show level, it can get daunting about how much opportunity there can be out there. But sometimes, when money's an issue, or, when you can't maybe travel to the places you need to get, additional awareness, you have to think outside the box.
mhm.
So, it could be very tough sometimes to try to be everything and all things and to be at every festival and to make sure that the singles are hitting and stuff. But I think one thing we also run a marketing company outside of our show, and one of the things that that we've said since talking to your management is that your brand and how well you play guitar and how well you do your songwriting, really it's showcased ahead of the mark compared to so many others that we see. And I think that that's why the fact that you're so conscious around like the way that things are captured and the way that things look and the way that you're elevated, it definitely comes across. And the artist I've had my eye on this past year is what's her name, Sierra Finelli. You know what I'm talking about? What's her name?
You know what? You just gave me a new artist to check out. I'm excited.
Sierra Farrell. Um,
Why does
she's
it sound familiar?
from
Ooh,
Yeah, and she just did a gig with John C. Riley, actually. And her costuming is really amazing and her look is very cool.
ooh,
But I think when people are really conscious about the things that they like and they're just going to throw it the fuck down, that's when people really notice. You could, churn out 10 amazing pop stars, but it's only going to be the one that has a genuine heart that connects with their fans, that people, they'll make a Taylor Swift famous because she deserves it. And I think like
right.
I always look at how creatives and artists are trying to thrive without saturating their own visions, right? Because like you said, this is something you'd wanted to do, something you could do on your own. And it can be tough not to let additional influences and other things and festivals not to pull you down sometimes, right?
100%, 100%. That's a really good point, and I think genres are always, like, even though there's so much being thrown at us at once, which is amazing, there's also, um, like, I feel like the pop punk thing was a thing, still is a thing, was a thing a couple 2, 3 years ago, and, like, the resurgence of that, and now I feel like we're in this more, like, organic space, so I think that, yeah, just trying to stay true to, like you said, like, double down on, you know, what I love and what I believe in, regardless of the trend changes around, to kind of build your own world.
What does your world over the next few months look like? What do you have? Like what's the day to day like for you?
So, I have a bunch of new releases coming out, which I'm excited about. Um, and yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And then I have a tour coming up in end of October,
Okay.
which I'm really excited about as well. On the East Coast. Um, Another tour planned for next year. Um, in and around that, I was kind of touring a lot and on the road a lot this last year, so I wasn't getting to like write
Yeah.
as much. So now I'm back like in writing mode, which is really exciting, and working with some new people and really trying to like push that envelope further in terms of like the sound and just triple down on it.
Oh, that's exciting. So my other question then would be, are you going to see Nine Inch Nails when they play in September?
Oh my god.
Going to
I'm
every date? Are you going to one? Are you going to all five? Which one are you going to?
Oh my gosh. I'm working on the L I'm working on because the LA one is sold out. It's been sold out so I'm
Okay.
working on that one right now, trying to figure out a way to get there. But last time they toured, I think in 23, like I went to Vegas for that one, and that was incredible.
Yeah.
So I will do the tri-state area if I have to
I think it's
to
so important to get out and see the bands that you love and bring you back to the things that make you you and gave you that sense of like individuality. For me, my band is Primus. That's the one band I love going to see. And it's one thing that when I go see them, I'm like, okay, I remember who I am, and it helps me get some motivation back, but it also
Mhm.
helps, the creative craft come back. It makes you want to go back and write and do things, right? So I think that's really, exciting, and I hope you get to the show. That's for sure.
Thank you. I'll keep you guys, but the
the,
show looks
the show
insane.
excerpts have been looking amazing. Like I feel like Trent's putting on a better show than he did 20 years ago.
It's insane, and every night there's, like, songs from the vault, like, that haven't been played in, like, 25, like, it's insane. It's like
Yeah,
each
it seems
city
like
is
they're getting better with age because if they're going to have to tour, they want to put on a good show and they don't want to have people's shitty cell phones capturing bad
Yeah,
footage. So like Maynard's the same way. There's a lot of other bands that we've seen. I think they're getting a lot better with age.
yeah. I agree, and the production is just, like, out of this world, you
Yeah,
know?
that production of their current show right now looks like a whole movie set. It looks amazing.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's really important, for people to bring back to music, especially with all of the way that AI and like these
mhm,
tools. It's good that we have these tools, right? But not to a point where we're not creating our own album art or our own liner notes or the things that would make us as customers to your music want to buy your music. And we say this all the time, like there's a reason why, the Pink Floyd 2-track EPs that were, $30 in the 70s. There's a reason why they're still obscure now, and they've increased in value. And it's
mhm.
because bands were being a lot more thoughtful about what they were putting in instead of just giving you a black record with nothing in it, right? If you're going to spend the money on something, I think customers want that connection to know that you're in your best time creating as well, because then they know what they're going to get is really good. but it's, you know, I can only imagine as an artist how up and down, you know, the days can be with, you know, what you have to do and writing and, you know, feelings and things like that. I can only imagine.
Yeah, yeah, every day is a, some days it's like the highest highs, and then, you have days where it's like the, super low. No 2 days are alike. It's
Yeah.
it's a whirlwind and it's an adventure, but, um, yeah, it's ever evolving.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm.
So I'm curious. I know Kate shared an artist she's been listening to. What are you listening to right now? What are some of your music recommendations, if you have any?
I Okay, so I'm loving the new I don't know if you guys have heard the new Lord record. Um
I've heard one of the I guess the single, but
Yeah, yeah, there's some really just in terms of artistry, like, uh, I really, really respect what she's doing. She really did something different on that record. She kept it minimal, but, like, there's some I'm such a nerd with, like, just analyzing all this stuff and, the songwriting and the production, and there's just a lot in there that she just it's so nuanced, and it's just art front to back. I really respect what she did on that record. It's amazing. Um, and then I'm trying to think what else have I been listening to lately? Um, I've kind of delved back into um like some of Ethel Cain's like earlier stuff. I really I really love her, and the world she's kind of built around her art and her music. So, just like those first 2 records, I've been kinda going back there and listening to those a lot as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
it reminds me of one question I had when you mentioned like building a world and world building, and that's sort of something that like you do in your music as well. And I'm sort of curious how when it comes to that storytelling aspect, do you start like with the lyrics and the story, or is it more so you have like the beat and the music first, or how does that creative process work?
Yeah, so it varies. I'd say, I sort of I'll walk into sessions sometimes, and sometimes it'll be with, different people I don't know. Sometimes it'll be with collaborators I've worked with in the past, but, I'll usually start with the concept, um, and just kind of the bones of a story. Sometimes it starts with that. I'd say most of the time it starts with a concept. Sometimes it starts with a melody, sometimes it starts with, one line of lyrics that inspires a whole world. So it's very, very different and visceral, like, depending on, like, what I'm feeling. And then sometimes just words pour out, depending on what's going on and what I'm feeling that day, kind of.
And so before we wrap up, I haven't done this in a while, Kate, so I'm going to I'm going to do it. It's our strange solitary sounds, our riff on desert island discs. You are somehow locked in a room in solitary with a record player, and you are allowed to have 3 records. What are those records and why?
That's a great Okay. Um, so Nine Inch Nails, Downward Spiral, of course.
Of
Okay.
course.
Um, Shania Twain, Come On Over.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah, that record, like, changed my life.
Yeah.
And uh, ooh, it's tough. It's tough. Um, Honestly, Nirvana, Nevermind.
Solid.
Can I come hang out with you?
Yes, please, anytime.
I feel like if all those records together like had a baby, it would be outlaw pop. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
man.
Yeah, it's like the perfect combination.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Those are good picks.
Thank
Solid.
you.
Solid.
Very good picks.
Thank you guys.
Awesome. Well, we so much appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today, and we
Thank
can't
you.
wait to connect next time we're out your way on the West Coast.
Yes.
And for
Sooner
anyone
than
listening, sooner than later, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone listening that wants to follow you, check you out, where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. If you just search Devora Music XO, that's usually the handle. Yeah, so find me there and stay in touch.
Strange Crew, you better go follow, you better go listen. And she's got a new single coming out. So you got to make sure you're listening to it, streaming it, and getting those listens up.
That's right. Awesome. Well, Devora, thank you so much again for your time. It's been so much fun. And
Thank you guys. Honored. Thank you so much.
Can't wait to see you in person.
Awesome. You too. I can't wait to meet you guys in LA.
No.
And for everyone watching or listening, thank you so much. And until next time, keep
Keep it strange.
strange.